Hello, it's Chris. I thought I'd do a quick little video to share a review and a comparison of my two heat presses that I use in my sewing room. This is my trusty old Elna Press. It's the Blue Jeans brand. I bought that secondhand off Facebook Marketplace with $50 or $40 or something a few years ago. And as you can see, she's been well used. I haven't worried about replacing the cover there. A lot of times I'll cover the surface for different things that I'm doing, and I use baking paper a lot. So got better things to do with my time than sew a new cover for that one. This is my new machine. So this one arrived, I think it was last week, and I've given it a really good test run with a variety of materials. So I thought I'd go over and show you a little bit. So the brand I got, I'm not sure the right way to pronounce it, but it's Vevor or Vevor, V-E-V-O-R, and it's all digital. It's got the timer and temperature. I can easily set, I'll just hold this down here. So if I want to change the temperature, I just press the temperature button and I can press the temperature up or down. Same with the timer. I can change the timer setting. So I can change it to be longer or shorter, depending on what I want to do. So I thought I've cut out some lining fabric pieces for a bag that I'm currently making. So I thought I'd take the opportunity and show you a side-by-side comparison of the difference between the two machines. Yeah, so obviously the main difference that for me, that why I sort of probably wanted this press, is the depth of this machine. It's 15 inches wide and height, so it's a 15-inch square, whereas this plate is longer than this one, but it's not as deep. So a lot of the times when I'm interfacing some of my handbag pieces and I'm fusing, this section here is not wide enough, and I have to press, like say this piece was this big, I'd have to press in sections to be able to fuse the whole piece, whereas on this machine, having that 15 inches in depth there has really helped quite a lot. Even this piece here, it will only just sort of fit on this mat, but with the cushioning and that, it doesn't quite get the edges. So I'm going to try and line this up on the widest part, and we'll see how we go pressing the two. So the temperature, I've got this one set at, I'm actually fusing on a woven fusible interfacing called Easy Fuse. It's from Chris W Designs in Australia. Great interfacing, really lovely structure. If you're used to using the popular one, or quite a common one, is SF101, this is a bit more structured, so it'll give you a little bit more structure, but not adding a lot of bulk or anything like that. But it fuses beautifully, and love the quality. And I just find it's just gives my lining pieces just that little bit more like structure. Yeah, don't know how else I could say it. A little bit more stability. So I've got that piece there ready. So this is for a back or a front lining piece for the handbag. The fabric I'm using is a quilting cotton that I got from Spotlight. So that's the weight of the cotton without any interfacing on it. It's not structured, like the structure's just not enough for a handbag. So I cut my interfacing pieces to be just a little bit smaller. Neither of these pieces are cut yet to the exact size of my pattern piece, which is under here. So I've got more pieces to do. So this is my own handbag design. So when I cut my lining fabric, I usually just do a rough cut around. I'll show you on here, you might be able to see. So the lining fabric pieces sort of just go around a little bit bigger than what my finished cut product will be. So that way then I don't have to worry about cutting out and getting the lining fabric and the interfacing fabric cut out perfect. I cut this one out a little bit bigger, and I use that same pattern piece, and then I'll cut out the fusible interfacing just marginally bigger than the pattern piece that I'm using. So don't really waste much, and it's a really quick way of cutting out interfacing, and don't have to worry about trying to line up edges and get them all neat. So I thought, because this machine, the other thing is this old one doesn't have a timer, whereas this one's got the timer. So I thought, to do the comparison, if I put this one on first, press it down, do this one straight away, when this one beeps, I'll open it up, and then I know to just come and open up this one instead of having to sort of count the seconds in my head. So I'm going to press these. We'll do this test run for 10 seconds, and this temperature I've got set on the cotton setting on here, and on this one I've got the temperature set at 180, and the timer I've got set for 10 seconds. So I also, before I apply my fusible interfacing, I like to pre-press my fabrics just to remove any shrinkage that might happen. Sometimes when you apply a fusible interfacing, if you end up like where your fabric sort of buckles and distorts a little bit, a lot of times it's not your interfacing that has had some shrinkage in it. It's actually the fabric that can shrink, especially if you haven't pre-shrunk it. And I don't wash handbag fabrics before I sew, but I do pre-press the fabrics to remove any shrinkage. So we'll do that first. Get that bit of cotton off there. So this piece here, you can see it takes up this whole width here. Plenty of room, height-wise, really good area. This one, yeah, we'll see how we go. Okay, so we'll press this one down. The timer's automatic. This one here, set that one down. When this one, the beeper goes off, now I'll just lift that one up, and then I'll lift that one up. Just having a look to see the difference. I can see this fabric here hasn't been pressed, so I can see the difference, whereas this bit here is. I can still see a bit of a crease in that fabric there. This one looks perfect. No creases, no anything from where I've had the fabric folded. Whereas this one, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it, but there is like a slight crease line there. But the edges here definitely haven't pressed. Like they're a little bit buckly there. Try and line that up as best as I can. Okay, let's put our interfacing on. So my lining fabric, if it was going to shrink, it would have shrunk by now because we've done the pre-shrinking. Line these up in the centre. I like to cut my interfacing a bit smaller as well, because it just reduces the chance of the interfacing adhering to my material underneath. If I thought there was a chance that that could happen, I'll use my baking paper. A lot of times I find on this machine the interfacing sticks to this metal plate and it can leave a residue, and it's really hard to get off. This one here has got like a built-in Teflon sheet on it, so it's not just a straight exposed metal plate. And I tested it, and when I got some interfacing stuck on there, I could just peel it off. It just came off straight off, whereas this one, yeah, that just doesn't happen. So we'll give it a test run without the baking paper. So again there, we'll do the 10 seconds. Do this one. We'll just wait for the timer to go off. And she's ready. Let's have a look. Looks pretty good to me. A way you can test to see if your interfacing has adhered is just to see if your little corners lift up. A lot of times though, it can still lift up a bit if you pick at it, or it can warp a bit. If while this is hot, you sort of lift it up, you can sort of buckle it a bit. If that ever happens, like, and you find you've lifted it up and you've got pieces that are now sort of sitting, like say like that, all you need to do, just lay it all down nice and smooth again. Just give it a quick press. Like, I wouldn't do the whole 10 seconds again because you don't need to. But just a quick press and everything will be down nice and smooth again. Just sort of puts the warp and weft of the fabric back in alignment together. That one's been on there more than it needs. See, I can see I haven't got those ends there. Haven't reached those corners. Got that corner and I didn't get this corner. So I need to do this another press. So I'll just do that. This one's done. Beautiful. The adhesion is great. And that's still warm. You can see now that fabric has got much more structure than it did before. So it's perfect. It's probably about 10 seconds there now. See how this one is. Looks pretty good now. I still haven't got those edges from when it didn't quite reach there. So probably with this one I would have been better off to just do this section, sort of like that, and then here. So I'll just give that a press. So you can see it is a time saver for my bigger pieces of fabric. One press and I've done a big piece, whereas with this one I need to come back and do it a couple of times. If you're just doing one bag, like, or you know, you're not making lots of bags, it's not really an issue. But when you're sort of production sewing and you're making lots of bags, yeah, it does make a difference. That's it here beautifully on there now. So the end result is still fantastic. And like I said, I've used this for years now and have loved it. And I'm actually still going to keep it and use it in conjunction, specifically for when I have those longer pieces, or I've sort of got quite a few bags on the go. If I'm doing a batch sew, I can do like I am now. Produce double the quantity. So these are my bag base pieces for the bottoms of my bag. See, on this one here I would have to do one on here and then come back, do another one. With the size of this plate now, I actually have room. I can fit the both of these. They're not actually bag bases, these are my other pieces for let me think then, got myself caught up. Slip pocket. So one side's going to have a slip pocket with some leather trim, so I can do both of these on this one. I'll pre-press that cotton fabric though. It's just a habit I've always got into, pre-press. If I'm sewing clothes or sewing handbags, I always pre-press my fabrics. That's always too a good way to test a material. So if a particular interfacing says you need to be able to press it for so many seconds, do a little scrap piece and do a test and just see how it goes. So they're both perfectly pressed, and you can see if the material you're using can handle that temperature for that amount of time. If I find that that temperature is too hot for that particular material, what I will do is I will bring down the temperature, but I will press it for a little bit longer to help compensate that, and that generally works quite well. So I've pre-pressed, I'll lay my interfacing pieces on. This one here, I can see my interfacing is hanging over a little bit, so I'm actually going to trim that a little bit there, or I'll test and see if it fits on this piece without trimming, and it does. Should be pretty good on that one. Just get them sitting in there. I should have cut them just that little bit smaller. That's pretty good. So, and this one, just making sure it's sitting inside, and that one's good to go. So, there. And do my press again for 10 seconds. I love too that it's white. Got to paint my room yet, and it'll all be white. I'll just let them cool for a bit, and while they're cooling, I'll get my next pattern pieces ready. So these are going to be for that lining slip pocket. So that's those. When these are all done, I get my pattern piece out there, like these two. What I'll do when I cut these out with the actual pattern piece, I'll lay them both on top of each other. Sometimes I'll lay them face to face, or it doesn't really matter. And if I lay this piece here now in the centre, I know I'm good to go. If my interfacing does happen to be a little bit shy of where I'm sort of going to cut, it's still going to be within the seam allowance, so it doesn't really matter. The other thing I can do is just make sure that those interfacing pieces are lined up. They're lined up pretty close enough. These are lined up. That's pretty good. So I can just lay that on there now, lay it in the centre, or along one of these straight edges here if I've already got a straight edge, and then just cut that out. And if I want to get really straight cuts, sometimes I'll just lay my ruler down on top, and then I'll cut my pattern pieces. And then I know I'm getting really, really neat, precise cuts. I won't worry about cutting out the pattern pieces here. So just a little bit of time, but they're ready to go. These two here now, they're ready. So when I cut out these pieces, I'll also cut out my pockets. When I've got pieces like this that are sort of where I'm going to use the same pattern piece, what I'll do is I'll just lay that pattern piece over, tuck them in there. I know they go together when I'm ready to cut. So next up I've got to do the bag base. So I need to press that. What I'll do too, another tip that I'll share with you while I'm pressing this base, I'll have a little chat, laying that one down, I'll give it a pre-press, is if I want a little bit extra structure in the base of the linings of my handbags, sometimes I will layer 2 pieces of interfacing. Sometimes I'll lay a piece of interfacing and a layer of Decaville light if I want that extra structure inside that bag. And then sometimes I'll just have one layer of the interfacing. So for this one now, because I'm doing the 2 layers of the fusible interfacing, I'm going to press 1, but I don't really need to do it for the whole 10 seconds because I'm going to come back and do it again as well for the full time. But it's not going to hurt the fabric at all. So, but I don't have to wait the whole 10 seconds. I can just sort of wait till it sort of tack fuses on. See, I'm sort of about through there now. A couple of seconds really doesn't matter. Now I'll put this piece on. You see little pieces of fabrics or anything before you lay your interfacing, make sure you take it off because otherwise you'll have a little ridge and you'll see that piece of thread. Even though it's one piece of thread, it will show through. You'll have a little ridge. That's right, that's just a little piece of fabric there. And now I will, with that second layer, make sure I do that extra fuse. And now I've got a nice base piece. Let that cool for a little bit. I don't want to warp it, but it will have a bit more structure. I'll just lay him over there while he can cool off, and I'll show you. Look, so here's where I've got these ready here. These are going to be for my pockets. So I do for my side pockets. I've got my side pocket panel piece, and I've got my fabric. I've just cut a piece of fabric big enough on the fold, and my interfacing again there on the fold. Then when I cut this out, I'll fold that over, lay that on top, and cut it out in one go. Let me see if this will fit on this one. No, see that one there, if I was doing it like this, in this one piece, I would have to do 2 presses, or cut it in half and see if I can jigsaw it around to try and make it fit. Whereas now, I can just lay this on, pre-press that piece of fabric. Again there, I still like to pre-press at the same amount of time that I'm going to be pressing the interfacing. It's just a habit that I've got into. You can see if my fabrics can handle the heat. And my rough side down. Centered in the middle. And I'll do that again now for the 10 seconds. I could be fusing while this is going. I could actually be fusing my other pieces. Now I've got, for this one, I'm using the same pattern piece. I could even, if I wanted to, pre-crease that. Why not? Make it easy when I cut out the piece, the side panel piece, I mean. The whole time, that it'll have a nice little crease in there. I'll move that over here. Now, for this pocket, I just have a fold line there. I fold it down. I know it's going to perfectly fit then my side panel, because I've used the side panel piece and I've just folded that down. Again there, piece of fabric, cut big enough. Can cut the 2 pieces in one. Could do it on here, but I might as well use the new one. I think that my new one will be my go-to. Pre-shrink that. I like the fact that I don't even have to think about how long it's been on there. Just wait for the beep. She's good. Just sort of don't force your fabric around, because you don't want to stretch it like you're interfacing or anything. So if you need to shift it, sort of just manipulate it around to sit flat and press. It's so good. I'm thrilled with it. Just love it. Now that one, so that I don't get confused too, I'll put these aside and I'll do that same thing, whereas I tuck them in there, and then I know they're ready to be cut with that pattern piece. And that's my base. So you can see now I've got a pretty thick base. If you wanted to add even more structure and you don't have access to Decaville, or you've run out, or you just don't want to add another expense, you want to keep your supplies to a minimum, what I can do, and I have done, is I've laid a full piece of the woven easy fuse interfacing. I've then cut a smaller piece out of the seam allowances, and then I've laid and put it on, and then I've laid another piece out of the seam allowances, and then they have had the 3 layers. So it gives a really nice structured base. You can do the two smaller pieces that are out of the seam allowances first, and then do that one big full piece over the whole lot. That secures down those shorter ones that would be inside that seam allowance. Just another idea to give the bases of your handbags a nice firm sort of structure. And it's nice when you're hopping, put your hand in a handbag and it's just got a nice bit of structure. If I wanted to, I could also add in here like just a layer of Decaville Light or Decaville Heavy, which I've done before several times. And I'll put that on outside, inside the seam allowances, and then I'll lay a piece of the woven interfacing over the whole lot, and that gives that extra security of keeping that Decaville down, so that when you're turning a bag or anything there, you don't have that chance of it peeling up. It keeps it tacked down really well. Now I cut a couple of pieces of sample materials of vinyl. I've got a leather piece and I've got some Decaville. I've got a vinyl piece. This leather I got from a company called East Coast Leather. They're at in Brisbane, a suburb called near Capalaba. So they're there. This vinyl I got from Mia Zen. Absolutely love that there. And this is a marine grade vinyl, and I've cut little scrap pieces of the Decaville Light so that I can show you a comparison and let you know that you can press leather. I do it all of the time. I won't press it from this side, I'll press it from this side, and I also then will generally, when I'm doing vinyls or leathers, I do like to add in, just for a little bit of extra protection, some of the baking paper. You don't have to, especially with this machine because it's got that Teflon coating there, but I just find just that little bit of extra protection, just to have it off the way too. Cheap as chips, you can reuse it over and over. Now the other thing that I will do is I will actually, it's Decaville. I find that with the press, even with this one, 6 seconds, 7 seconds maximum is all you need. So I'm going to turn this temperature down. I've currently got it at 180. Now, I might actually just turn the time down and we'll see how that goes. It's going up, so I'm going to put that down to 6 seconds. And the other thing you can do as well is you can preheat your material a little bit to help get that bit of, like I see people try and heat the Decaville. Yeah, you'll only burn your fingers if you do that. If you just preheat that material a little bit, just give it a couple of seconds. Oh, my temp's not my temp. It's saying my temp's cooling down. So I've got that on for 5 seconds. Time, I'll go back up again. So they've preheated. So that then makes it easier to just lay that Decaville down. If your Decaville is a little bit buckled and warped, the warmth from that material underneath helps to sort of flatten it and hold it in place. You can just do that. You can already see that Decaville, the adhesion, it's already sort of semi-started and I haven't even pressed it. So it's just another handy little tip. Also, if you've got really warpy, buckly Decaville, especially on the Decaville Heavy, it can tend to have sort of like a curvy warp in it. What you can do is I just do like a quick tap. So I might just go like that and lift. Then I can still come around and I can move that Decaville. I probably can't now because I did that extra bit of preheating. You can see it's already started to adhere there. That was like so quick, but because it's been sitting on here and I preheated that material, it already started to soften that adhesive. So it gives the Decaville a great advantage to adhering. I'll put a bit of baking paper on. And we'll do that for 6 seconds, and then we'll check to see how the vinyls, the 2 different vinyls and the leather handled those temperatures. Okay, just give them a little bit there to cool, and we'll have a look. I'll bring them over for you. So make sure they're not too hot to touch. Perfect. Hold them up close. There's the leather. You can see the adhesion on the back. It's even adhered into all those little embossed sections there of the leather. I haven't flattened the embossing on that leather. Just sort of move it around so you can see the texture. I'll let them cool a little bit, and then we'll do the try and do a peel test. That's the marine grade vinyl. Put it sort of under some light there. You can see it hasn't affected the texture of that leather, hasn't melted on the leather, work with leather too much, of the vinyl. Everything's there still in place, really good adhesion. And then that's another vinyl there. That's the one from Miazen, and it's got a texture as well. I wanted to use vinyls that had a texture to show you that it hasn't affected it at all. So let's do the peel test. Try and get my fingernail in under there. Like, I've really got to try and pick at that. Like, I don't know if you can hear that or not. I've got my earbuds in because they're my little microphone as well. That's adhered beautifully. That's not going to peel off. Like, it's on there. And it's given that leather a nice bit of structure. So on this vinyl, we'll do the test. No, like, not going to get that off. Like, nice bit of structure there, not too heavy. Do the test on this one. Don't mind my nails. Got working hands. Like, you can probably hear that again there. It's not coming off. That's on there. It's staying there. So that's 2 different types of vinyls, the leather, and you've seen all the cotton. So you've seen cotton with single layer, double layer. So yeah, this still does the job. This just makes my job a little bit easier and saves me time, and time's money. So, and if I can spend more time sewing than fusing and interfacing, I'm really happy. So you can see, like, if I wasn't talking to you and that here, pre-cut, quick press, as the next one's pressing, I can be then working on cutting out my pieces and laying them on, like that one there. Cut that out. I've cut 2 at once. That pocket, open that up, cut that, cut 2 top side panels at once, 1 base, this one, cut that slip pocket out to size. Even with that slip pocket, if I wanted to be lazy, which I've done before, is if I got these top edges straight, I can even line them up on top of these pieces, get all those edges lined up, get the bases of my front and back panels lined up, make sure I'm covering the sides, all good. The main thing is these are straight here, and I can just cut this all out, and there we go. Done 2 of my slip pocket pieces and my front and back pieces. They're little time savers that I tend to do as well. Getting quite hot in here because I closed the window, got the blind closed, and I've got two heaters on, having a bit of a facial steam. Okay then, that's all from me for now. Hope you appreciated the review. But yeah, don't feel like you have to have one of these. Just a really nice to have one thing. Does the job great. And if you don't have one of these, the iron does the job great as well. I've got an iron as well. Yeah, so use what you have, and it's just a matter of an iron takes longer, it's more work, holding and pressing and holding and pressing. This makes it a bit quicker. This makes it a lot quicker. Okay then, that's all from me from now. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.